Hi.
Okay. How's everybody doing this morning? Hmm. Can can you switch the view to gallery? Okay. Am I spotlighted for the recording?
Yes, I forgot.
I think I am spotlighted. I see a little person next to me in my name, so we'll never get this down. And as soon as we do, they'll update it.
Change it. Either Nana needs to do it. I think
It's already done. It's already done. I went to open Kindle today and it said, well, we're going to quit supporting this software in October, so you need to update it. So I went to update it and it said not supported on this device. And I thought, oh, this is a problem. You know, I only have like 100 Buddhist texts in this device. So it's like, oh no. But that's okay. I mean, what to do? I planned on bringing my Kindle to India, so I'd have all these books with me.
Is it a Kindle or is it your cell phone?
It's an iPad. And it's not even all that old. So anyway, we don't need to fix it. It's just the way it is. Something will occur. Oh, anyway, either it will work or it will not. So those are the two options. So, hey, Lou. Okay, let's take a moment to kind of get ourselves kind of comfortable in our seat. Really invite your mind to join you here with your body, sitting here, letting go of whatever busyness you were doing before and whatever busyness you will be doing later. And check in with your body. How's it doing? Take some breaths to relax any tension in your body. Is that good?
Yes.
Oops, I hate that. Is that better? Just have to get it away from my nose. And check in with your mind. Where is your mind? Is it here? Is it relaxed? Is it worried? Is it distracted? Just notice. And now bring to mind the reason that you decided to show up. And whatever the reason is, generate an intention to use this time well with respect to that reason. And then try to combine this with a very expansive wish that it not just benefits your own mind, but that it ripples out to benefit those around you, and that it will ripple out to benefit those around them, and eventually ripple out to benefit all. Now we'll recite the four immeasurables. Jane, I think you need to mute your microphone. Thank you. So it's up on the screen. So take your motivation. And this is helping us be really expansive with our motivation, and trying to generate the wish, that generate compassion and love, happiness for others, and equanimity, no matter whether we like them or not. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from a happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Now, for those of you who are comfortable, we'll recite the refuge prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So how are people doing with observing their mind during the week? It is homework.
Easy to get lost.
It's easy to get lost. Boy, is that true.
Had some depression for a few days, and it was very unusual.
Depression. That's always fun, isn't it? Were you able to just work with it?
Yeah. It didn't seem to come from anywhere. It didn't seem to be anything, so I just, yeah, you say just try to sit with it for a while. See what happens.
And not make a big deal out of it.
It's gone.
Yeah, well, that's nice. We always like it when it goes away. That's the beauty of things, is they're impermanent, We only like that about the bad things. But everything's impermanent. So how do we work with things like when we realize, like maybe you wake up one morning and you realize, bleh. Meditate on the Buddha. That's certainly one way. If you're a Buddhist, it can uplift the mind. Remembering that the Buddha taught us that all of us can become Buddhas, that we can change our mind, we can work with our minds so that, okay, today. And when you're working with that kind of avenue, remembering the Buddha's teachings, what's one of the things we can think about? That it will pass. So we think about impermanence. Karma, which means that our past actions of body, speech, and mind create the cause for what arises, so we may have the habit. What is depression about? And I'm not talking about clinical depression where you may have a physiological basis for it, but just your run-of-the-mill unpleasant. What is it about?
Grasping at the self.
At the self. It's grasping at the self. It's sort of kind of like, oh, I'm not happy, and feeling blue about it. And it's not conscious particularly. It's not like you're thinking that. It's just that, but that's where your focus is sort of on the self and just kind of like, nothing exciting is going to happen today. Nothing exciting in my life ever happens. Never, whatever it is, whatever the thought. Or maybe something you're struggling with something, or maybe you're sick and don't realize it, But it's just sort of like, it's really a self focus. So one of the ways to help ourselves with that is to introduce other kinds of thoughts in that moment. We have to practice this. It's not, it doesn't just pop up because we want it to, but but with practice, we can kind of remind ourselves, oh, I'm not the only person in the world that feels this way right now. And what can that generate?
Compassion.
Compassion. Where, oh, that's kind of sad, and we can have, the fact that we know what it feels like means we can have more authentic compassion for others feeling like that, because we know it's not pleasant. It can be really devastating, but it's just, so that's one of the ways we can work with it. It's just reminding ourselves we're not alone in this. It's impermanent. And we can use that as an opportunity to generate the wish that others not be suffering and that they become happy, And so one of the Buddhist teachings on this is a practice called taking and giving, Tong Lin. And it's where you decide to take on the suffering of others. So you just have this thought, because can we take the suffering of others? No, not really. This is about mind training. It's about developing the wish, oh, if I could, just like when your child is sick, if I could, I would take this suffering away. And so you think things like, may I be the only one who's suffering with this today. I'm willing to take on all the other, beings that are feeling this way and take it all on myself so that they don't have to experience it. Thoughts like that can make you feel better. This thought that you are getting out of your own focus, self-focus, and thinking about other people's difficulties, that by itself can shift everything, So it's a really useful habit to cultivate. And we can do it when we're facing any kind of negative mind, any kind of negative circumstance, where we just think, oh, I'm not the only one experiencing this. I'm sorry that others are experiencing this. I'm willing, I wish that my experiencing this would exhaust this negative experience for everybody. Because it puts it in perspective, doesn't it? We're not just solely focused on our, my world and how icky it is at this particular moment. So developing that habit. So this is when, if you have different difficulties, which I imagine everybody does, in your life, when you're sitting quietly, you can think about it in this way. Just thinking, oh, I'm not the only one who's had this problem. And allow your mind, your heart to sort of expand for others and make yourself less the center of the universe in that moment, because that helps. Then you can also think about, its impermanence, and not just, oh, it'll pass, but really kind of think about yourself a year from now, and think, will I have this difficulty a year from now? What will I be thinking about it a year from now? You think about your problems in the past, big ones, you think about, oh, I'll never get over this, kind of thing. Is it true? We've forgotten more problems than we have right at this moment. And that's important to remember. That, all the weight that we put on ourselves when we're having complications in our life or in our mind, can lighten if we remember, I've been here before. I survived it. I'm not a grouchy old person on every moment of the day. So, I not only survived it, it didn't really do me damage. So, and I know this sounds like, just positive thinking, but it's not really just positive thinking. It's called looking at cause and effect. It's like, if I do these things, I have shown that I can handle things in the past, that things that seem big at the time become less important over time. You have facts to support your argument to yourself. And that helps. We don't want to just, oh, well, I'm just going to pretend it's a good day. Because that can backfire, if there's nothing to support it. We can pretend to have a good day, but it'd be better to just make it a good day. Decide that you're not going to let whatever complication is there interfere with your having an okay day. So that means you'll have to use your reasoning, your intelligence, your wisdom, that when it arises in your mind, slaps you in the face again, that complication, that you'll be able to say, okay, it's impermanent. May feel like it's never going to go away, but it will. I've handled things like this before. I can handle these things again. You have to use these things from your own experience so that you can set aside that worry or that frustration that it's there at all, and reminding yourself, I'm not the only person with this problem. These are the things that arise. This is life. And we don't have to make it a super big deal. That makes sense? So it's an active process. It's not a trick. Yes.
In that moment, when you're doing that, and it's still kind of heavy in your mind, talking about it to somebody else, do you think that that's appropriate? Like that?
It depends on your habit of how you talk to someone else about it. Sometimes when we talk to others, we are just rehearsing our suffering. We're justifying it. We're saying, well, I'm suffering because, and isn't it terrible? And we want agreement with that, as opposed to say we want someone to help us problem solve. That might be appropriate. Or we just want someone to pat us on the back and say, it'll be okay. Yes, I do remember you surviving this or that. If you need a backup, if you need someone else to tell you you've survived these things in the past and you can do it again. If you need someone else to tell you it is not a reflection of who you are, that bad things happen.
Well, I feel like just getting it out. So no.
Yeah, that's the problem. Then you're giving it away. And even in the act of giving it away, you're rehearsing it. You're telling yourself, of course I feel this way. Well, no, it's a habit to feel this way. Some people don't feel this way. People much more evolved than I am. But, when things happen, they don't let it doesn't faze them because they've done the work on their mind to just roll with things and samsara. Yeah.
And sometimes if you have kind of difficulties in whatever phase of your life, and perhaps you're sad or frustrated or a little bit depressed even, I found that I literally go through a checklist in my head. Am I feeling this way? Why? What are my intentions and what could I do to change it? And one of the things is after I go through the mental process, I need to do something affirmative in order to try and change this. And it could be something literally like, someone is trying to raise funds because they're on the side of the road. They don't have a place to live. I'm like, instead of $1, I'm giving $5 this time. And that is perhaps it goes down Maslow's hierarchy. Initially, it's maybe selfish. Oh, if I do X,
And
then I get
that
Y.
theory doesn't hold up in
Pardon?
research.
I'm sorry.
Maslow's hierarchy doesn't hold up in research. I did a graduate paper on it.
I will defer to you and not that.
It was really funny. It was like, oh my God, it doesn't show up.
The point is, it was self-enlightened,
Yeah.
a little selfish, cause and effect, but then you start feeling
Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about, is we have to use our reasoning. We have to look at how whatever difficulty, complication, state of mind we're in, and make a decision to work with it. Use it as an opportunity to change your mind. So we use things like that. We have a list of things, like, oh, it's impermanent, that, you uplift your mind. I have Buddha nature. So, hey, this is no big deal. So whatever. But, it's about developing. You've developed a list of questions. We all need those. We all need to come up with a list that spurs us to recognize situation. It's the serenity prayer. Only Shantideva also said it, if there's a solution, we don't need to worry about it. We need to implement the solution. If there's no solution, we don't need to worry about it because there's no solution. So why worry about it? So if you have to do that whole train of thought, to kind of go, oh, that's right. If there's no solution, why am I letting it take over my mind? It's obviously something we have to live with. I am not queen of the world, much to my disappointment. So I'm not in charge. So I have to accept that and roll with it. So we need to recognize, and some of this is recognizing how our thought processes are. It's like, am I thinking this shouldn't happen to me? You have to ask yourself, get over yourself. What's that about? Shouldn't happen to me. It happens to all kinds of people. I wish it didn't happen to me. What can you do with that kind of thinking?
See it as a cause for exhausting and purifying it.
Yeah. So if you understand the Buddhist teachings about cause and effect, you can use it as an opportunity to exhaust some negative karma that's ripening, and preferably purify it so it doesn't happen again. What does that require?
4 hours.
The 4 hours, yeah. And I'm sure everybody knows what those are, right?
Taking refuge.
Okay, so you're relying on the teachings. So you're turning the, like, oh, okay, so what I did in the past didn't work. So now I'm going to try something else. Okay, so you're going for refuge in the teachings.
Developing strong regret.
This is key. What does regret mean?
Realize there was some action that was incorrect.
Yeah, that you did some action that was incorrect, caused harm. So what does that mean? What are you doing in that moment with this event? I know, I shouldn't.
Acknowledging my mistake.
Owning it. You're taking responsibility, acknowledging you were in the wrong. You may have no clue what in the past, right? But you may have some. We're not all perfectly behaved all the time, so we can imagine that, oh, maybe we treated someone this way, or maybe my habit of self-cherishing is leading me to be depressed. That little selfish part about, oh, things should be nicer. I wanted to be nicer today. Okay, so you try to generate genuine regret, and sometimes it has to be pretty generic. Whatever I did to create this cause, I'm sorry I did that because I don't like feeling this way. And so, and we have one of the karmic effects is that we create the cause to experience the same feeling that we cause someone else to feel. So we can at least regret that. Now we're just keeping that cycle going. Then okay, so that's 2 R's.
And then the remedy. So
Then the remedy. So we do something about it. That can be things like Tonglen. Oh, I'm willing to take on everybody who's having this kind of effect ripen in this moment, and exhaust it for everyone. You're taking on the suffering of others. Again, you have to really have, it can't just be rote. It can't just be, kind of like, yeah, I'm taking it. You have to kind of try to feel that, to really feel the suffering of others, that you're not the only one who feels this way. And doesn't that suck? I mean, let's face it. The fact that we all suffer is yucky. It's so sad. We have little sufferings, we have big sufferings. It's really sad. And if the Buddha is correct that we can turn this around and not suffer, it's really, sad. So we're trying to use mind training in order to do that. Okay, so remedy. There are also some Buddhist practices you can do, blah, blah, blah. But you can also apologize. You can, there are many different things you can do. And so you have to think about it. What's in accord, And, often it's not, there's no one to apologize to. But that's when Tonglen, this taking on all the suffering of others, can be helpful. What's the last?
Resolve, like make a commitment not to do it again, whether it's 5 minutes, an hour,
3 seconds,
24 hours, for life.
rest of your life. Yes. To try to really, okay, I'm going to try not to do this again. Yeah.
In the moment, sometimes for me, I don't have time to do that.
Yeah, of course not.
So what could help me or help others and all of us in that moment
Is to say, I'm going to do this
do it
tonight.
later, and it still has the same benefit?
Yeah.
Even if I remember later to do
Yep.
it? Okay.
And the more you do it, this is why it's recommended to do this every night, to go through your day, and do all kind of think about all the things that perhaps you did unskillfully, apply some regret to it, resolve, remedy. You can also think about all the negative things that arose, for you. That means negative karma arising, ripening, and you can, kind of think about those too, throw that in the mix and try to regret what past actions caused that to ripen today. So you can do all of that. And when you get this, when this becomes a habit, like I've been doing this every night for 25 years. In the moment, it will come up. You will, it's become a habit. So you may not be able to do this slow process, but immediately you regret it. You try to do something in the moment that pacifies it, like apologize because you've just been a jerk, whatever. But I mean, it's like there. And then of course you recall it later at night and do it more deeply, because all this is about practicing things that help us not do it again, to really change our mind. And letting go, as opposed to carrying guilt for the rest of our lives, being able to let go of the stuff, we regret it and we move forward. We don't then, have to carry it in a suitcase and say, oh, but I did this once. And make that define us, because it doesn't define us. There's nothing that defines us. We're just a series of moments. We don't have to carry our moments with us for all time.
Venerable Tendron.
Yes,
May
Elaine.
I ask a question? So let's say
Yes.
you're diagnosed with some disease, cancer, something. Is
Yeah.
that a part of, ripening of karma and all that?
Yep.
Mhm.
So yep. So can you see how that might be?
Maybe in terms of not, I know people who were born with, I work with people who are disabled.
Yeah,
and I know
sure.
people who were born blind, born deaf, born into like, you know,
I was
deformity.
born stupid. Yep.
Oh. So,
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing.
it's hard to swallow that, to be honest with you. Like they've
Why?
done.
What makes that hard to swallow? Does that mean you think it's about blame?
It seems like a cruel, almost like a punishment, to be honest.
Okay, well, that's you judging it. That's not what's happening. We can apply judgment to it, say, oh, they must have been really bad, you know, in a past life. But like,
I think
you're
I
muting
don't
that?
think, I don't think that. I don't think they were
Okay.
bad.
Then-
I think sometimes
then
just
that's-
stuff happens.
Okay, and according to Buddhism, it's really, first of all, important. It's nothing to do with blame, fault, guilt, nothing to do with that. It's about learning what actions to abandon and what actions to adopt. Negative actions, body, speech, and mind result in negative things, okay? All of us who've ever experienced an illness, that's a ripening of harming others in the past. So if you've never, ever been sick, never had a cold, then you can maybe feel like, oh, I must have been really good in a past life. Maybe. You know, you have countless lives to go. It is not linear. Okay. So yes, it is, you know, considering it was a cause and it's been ripening. Now, we can't do anything about that, right? It's happened, right? So you're born this way. What can you do to, yeah.
I was thinking maybe like this thing that we may think like it's not fair that that person born that way. If you apply the teachings on that, maybe you can change that feeling to compassion for that person. So that could be a seed for you to change it. Instead of thinking that is unfair, you just like, I relate with you.
Well, but how about the person who is experiencing it?
What about it? No, the person who will experience regardless, I can do nothing about it. I can
Right.
focus.
And so, okay, so how can the person who's born with it experience it?
Oh,
I'm sorry. If you understand cause and effect, then you try not to create the cause. You don't feel guilty about it ripening in this life. It's about going, oh, I don't want to be born like this again. So I'm not going to maim somebody. I'm not going to, you know, maybe you don't join the army. You know, probably can't join the army. So, you know, it's about recognizing, because again, it's about looking, I'm not the only one who has this problem. You know, countless others are born without their faculties complete. You know, may I use my life well to help others. Way here, I heard a story about a guy who has a school bus, and he goes around to bars and looks for very drunk people in the bars and offers them free ride homes. You know, so you can imagine he goes to lots of bars if he has a school bus. You know, I mean, that's just this little way this person's gone, oh, I can do this. You know, I have the means, I can do this. His long-term plan is to get a whole bunch of school buses and develop a mobile medical help thing. You know, so, you know, it's not about this, oh my God, I must have been terrible, an evil, terrible person in the past life. It's about understanding we create causes, we don't have control when they ripen, because it's from the past. What we can do So more that we practice a mind that's determined not to do bad things that hurt others, the more we're creating the conditions not to have those seeds ripen. And eventually we can, like, we can keep them from being able to ripen ever again. But that comes from realizing how reality is, how things exist. Yeah.
What is the teaching on physical pain,
Same thing.
physical suffering,
Same thing.
dealing with suffering?
Same thing. All of us on this planet as human beings created the cause to have a body that's fragile.
I understand the problem with that part, but the dealing with it day to day, what is the teaching about dealing?
It's about taking on the suffering of others, thinking that, oh, this is an opportunity for me to exhaust whatever negative action I created in some past life that's resulting in this pain now. Yeah, it's impermanent. Even chronic pain is impermanent in those moments. So becoming observant of how you're not always in the same pain in every moment can help. But also accepting that, oh, this is an opportunity to exhaust whatever negativity it is. Now, in Buddhism, it's taught that if you have these kind of sufferings as a human, you're not going, it's exhausting them in this life, not in the hell realm in the future, which are incredibly worse. It's a big picture view. Yeah.
Does this come down to whether you truly believe in karma and it's how it's used or how it comes about? Does it boil down to that, whether we've accepted karma?
Well, whether you accept it or not, if it's correct, that's what's happening. It's not a mind game.
What do you mean by correct?
Well, whether you accept it. I'm sorry? I didn't hear you.
Oh, what do you mean by correct? Correct.
That there is a law of karma, of cause and effect.
Right.
Nobody created it. It's just the way that everything works. I mean, you look at the universe, everything has causes and effects. You introduce consciousness into it, that adds another dimension to cause and effect. You don't find anything that isn't caused in the physical universe. Even our bodies are caused. Everything's caused. There's causes and effects. Nobody's out there judging you. Nobody made up a rule book. It's what the Buddha observed from his realization of how things are. Now, do I have proof karma exists? Not other than knowing that everything in my world has causes and effects. I don't know why I'd be any different, what I experience, But no, I don't have any more proof than that. But if it's true, it means we have power to change our future by the way we behave, and the way we think, and the way we speak. I like that. Like, I wanted to be queen of the universe. So,
yeah, and my question was about a child being abused.
A child being abused, same thing. Child being abused in some past life abused a child. Does that mean this child in this life has to just take it? No, you get them out. You don't want to be a condition for someone else to create the cause to be an abused child in the future, for one thing. It isn't about, I'll just take this. That's not what purifies. What purifies is a mind that says, I don't ever want to harm a child. And then maybe you grow up and you help others who are experiencing that. You work on not growing up to be that person who abuses children. And of course, this is hard, isn't it? And people who will not help child abusers are not helping children who are abused either, because it just goes on and on. But we don't have to go, I mean, these are extreme examples. I'm not saying they're not everyday examples. They are everyday examples, which is really sad. You know, and if this is happening in your life, then you need help to have it not be happening in your life. But in general, if we're dealing with smaller problems than this, it's the same approach. It just doesn't have such immediately huge consequences. You know, so it's not about blaming ourselves or blaming the children. I certainly wouldn't go up to a child, well, it's your fault. That doesn't even make any sense. You know, because no one deserves to be treated that way. It's not about deserve, you know, it's just a wrong action. It's someone committing a wrong action. You know, the child is not making that happen. Can you see the difference? If the child had never been someone in some past life who abused a child, the condition could never arise. But it doesn't mean when it arises, they provoked it. That's not what is being said here at all. That's really important to get. That this is not, the Buddha was not teaching that you're getting what you deserve. There's not anything about deserving. According to the Buddha, you know, we all should be happy. And there are causes for happiness. And there's causes for suffering. So you want to abandon the causes for suffering. You want to adopt the causes for happiness.
Yep. It might sound depressing, but it seems like there's a lot of suffering ahead.
Yeah, but isn't it already? You don't have to think you don't even have to think about it, and there's suffering ahead. Yes, but there's going to be less suffering if you work with your mind now. It's sort of like, you know, when you're a child and you're learning how to share and things like that, you know, and you're maybe not very good at it, and then finally you get it, you know, and your life with your friends is better. You know, now you may not realize that was cause and effect, but your parents probably do. Yeah, you know, it's like that. The less we're, you know, doing negative actions of body, speech, and mind, the less we suffer right away. You know, the mind that wants to be greedy, you know, that thinks greedy makes me happy, is a suffering mind, never going to be happy. A greedy mind is never happy. A greedy mind just wants more. A self-cherishing mind is never happy. Because life is never perfect. There's always more that you're going to want or think you need, or, you know. To me, karma says, well, guess what? Because I had a big issue with fairness growing up. Oh, it's not fair. I had two brothers, a father who was a massive chauvinist, thoroughly, you know, 100% believed, you know, and this is just not fair. So I learned about karma and I think, oh, okay. We've just been trading places. I clearly treated others like this. Karma says, actually, you know, it is fair. Karma, cause and effect. It's not about fairness, is it? If the cause is there, the effect is there. Yeah.
Just when the person is abused in their life, like today, and so their past karma, like you're saying, they abuse people. Is it the same abuse that they've done, or just any abuse?
No, it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, some teachers even say it's the same person.
And then you come in this life and you you realize this like today, right? And then so you want to change that, and you don't do that same abuse ever again, or never. You never do.
And you have never the desire to do it.
Right. So your next life, you're free of that, or you're still gonna live the karma out again.
No, you don't live the karma out again. Once it's exhausted, it's exhausted.
So you stop.
So you've stopped it if you develop the mind that 100% will never do that again, and doesn't like use it as a condition to hate. You know, because that's a negative mind. That doesn't mean anything about, you know, the child or whatever. I mean, and most children don't hate their abusers. You know, so I mean, it's about, you know, even if the child knows nothing about cause and effect, never grows up learning anything about cause and effect, but the child never wants to retaliate, never develops the mind that hates this person who's abusing them, never turns that into a reason to abuse someone else in the future. You know, they may have done work in past lives to prepare them for this life, for this condition, and they exhaust it. You don't have to know Buddhism. You have to work with your mind in that way. I'm not going to make this a condition to become a bad person, you know, and do this to others. Not that people consciously choose that, you know.
On the other side of the coin, many people make mistakes in their lives, and they use that as a learning lesson, help other people on that same subject.
Yeah, I mean, we all know people who have similar backgrounds, and what they choose to do in their futures are quite different, you know. So, you know, I mean, this is the thing. Some people have no opportunity to do better with their conditions. No one helps them. They don't get any teachings that might help them deal with it, you know. So they're not just abandoned or abused by their parents or a relative or something. They're also kind of neglected by society, you know. They're just, so, you know, they don't have much opportunity. The fact that we have these things in our world, we're part of this problem. It wouldn't exist in our world if every person who lived in this world hadn't created a cause to be part of this kind of world. So it's not individual. We are interdependent. Did someone raise their hand? Yeah.
The teachings say something about like for heavy karmas, for example,
like this child
yeah,
abuse.
like she was saying about somebody born blind, something like that. So is that something on the teachings that say that in order for that karmas like that to come up to fruit, you need to have some sort of like more, you would be more strong at that time to support
No.
that, or it could be any time.
Yeah, it could be any time. Now, the fact that these happens when we're human, we have a lot more resources to deal with it, don't we, than a dog, you know, than a mosquito. Doesn't stand a chance. So it isn't that having these, this is why one of the things of, you know, we can use in our teachings, in our trying to kind of work with our minds. Okay, this has arisen. How can I work with this in my mind? I mean, we're adults. We're not children who have, you know, even less control over what's happening to them. You know, we can, you know, recognize that where was I going with this? We have conditioned, we have the intelligence, the support of you know, a physical brain that's very sophisticated. We can use our minds in very sophisticated ways, you know. So we can learn how to take every condition that ripens and make it an opportunity to end our own suffering in the future. This is the path. Okay. So if we've done horrible harm in the past, like maybe we were a headmaster at an orphanage where every child in the orphanage was abused and we were one of the main abusers. I mean, I'm reaching here. But there are people like that. That has happened in our history, Before this life, while he was developing this habit of mind that would act that way, he may have, so he's had the condition. So it's just really complicated, folks. If you get caught up in the emotion of it, it's complicated. Not so complicated if you're just looking at cause and effect. He created the cause to have power. That's virtuous action. He's using that power to harm. That's a really stupid use of that power, and it's going to cause you suffering in your future. But we're a mixed bag. That's why we can't just go, oh, well, look at me. I have a good life. It doesn't matter what I do. I must have done pretty good in the past. Well, if you want to continue to do pretty good in the future, you must check your mind. Because if you're quick to anger, that can grow. That habit grows. It's why you don't want to rehearse your anger. You don't want to blame others for your anger. It's your anger. You want to work with your anger so it doesn't arise. So you never become the person that swats the kid or the dog.
What if you're abused and then you're not abusing someone in that same way or whatever now, and you're living that way pretty good, but in your other daily life, maybe the way you talk in your head is abusive towards others.
Yeah, that's not a good plan.
Right. So how do
you catch yourself? You notice that that's the habit you have. And you have to sit and think about why it's not a good habit, why you'd like to stop it. And then you have to decide to try to stop it. And then you have to give it a go. And through trial and error, you try to develop a mind that doesn't even go there. Because as soon as it arises, you want to think, that's not helping. I don't want to become the kind of person that now doesn't just think about it, but follows through on it. And what leads to following through? It's that mind. Doesn't come out of nowhere. So working with our mind, thinking all those kind of, even with just small stuff. I mean, not big stuff, little stuff. Oh, what a jerk. Hope they get theirs. We think like this. That's not a good habit. First of all, it's making you miserable in that moment. Also, it does not help stop creating the conditions to have those kinds of results, because our mind creates karma. It's not just the actions of speech and body, So the mind's the most important part. Without the intention, we really don't usually do something harmful to others. But if it's there in the mind, it's not a far step to do something with our speech or with our body. So it's really, and I know how hard this is because I was a total jerk in my youth. Not even, I wasn't all that young either, You really, I remember whole years where all I thought about was, don't say that. That's what I'd have to do. I'd be thinking something, go, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Go, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? These are the kind of things I had to say to myself for a year. It is hard work. If you have a really strong habit of negative thinking, it's an effort to stop it, but you can. You know, you have to want to. You have to see that it has some benefit. And basically, the benefit may be as simple as, I don't want to be like that. You know, because when we accept responsibility for our negative actions, then we have to face the fact that nothing we do can erase the fact we've done them. You know, so if you don't want to be a person that did that kind of stuff, quit thinking that way, because you're going to be a person who does that stuff, you know, with practice. It just happens. You know, that's how cause and effect works. You know, but like we have sayings that, you know, like the baby wasn't born a serial killer. It's the habits of mind that arise and that are practiced and, you know, that end up resulting in that behavior. Now they brought that with them. You know, that's a habit that had to be developed for a long, long time. Hitler didn't just magically appear. So looking at our negative minds, our attitudes of mind, recognizing, ooh, that's kind of the kind of mind that I can imagine this really, you know, person doing all these horrible things probably has. I don't want to continue this state of mind. But continuing to persist in the idea that, oh, I can't change that. That's not true. Recognizing it's just a habit of mind, and with practice, we can change that habit of mind. But it means taking, you know, first it means noticing what kind of habits of mind we have, taking responsibility for them, not blaming our parents, our life, our job, our boss, our, you know, whatever, and going, oh, this is my mind. You know, even if we say, oh, I learned this habit from my father. Hey, you're an adult. You can unlearn this habit. You know. And we need to watch this self-concern, you know, this, if we have the habit of, oh, it's not fair, why do these things happen to me, blah, 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 blah. That's all about me. The more we can turn that outward and go, you know, how about others? How are they doing? You know, can I be of help? You know, turning your focus away from spotlighting yourself to spotlighting others, you know, that can help us practice the kinds of minds and actions of body and speech that we want to develop. So it, you know, it can be, you know, if you notice that your mind's going sort of a negative way, you can kind of go, okay, I need to encourage myself to work through that because I don't want this to bleed out and cause harm to others. And how do you do that? You think about them. Quit thinking about yourself. Think about them. How's your day go? But it is really important to not think that the Buddha is saying it's your fault for the negative things. What's at fault is ignorance and self-cherishing, because that's what drives our negative actions. Nobody's choosing to create the cause to suffer. Nobody wants to suffer. It is a misunderstanding of what's going to cause happiness. You know. And also doesn't mean that if your friend has something terrible happening in their lives, that you don't turn going, well, it's your karma. So that's no compassion. You know, and it's not, you know, it's not relevant. What's relevant is how we respond to what's happening, because that's what can change our minds and our conditions for the future. You know. And here I was going to talk about cherishing others. See, we're talking about child abuse and oh, but yeah, but this is how our world is, isn't it?
Venerable Tendron,
Yes.
can you recommend a good book about on karma? Do you have a suggestion?
There's a series of books called The Foundation of Buddhist Thought. And I think one of them is called Karma. It's by Geshe Tashi Sering. That's a pretty good book. That whole series is good books. And I tell you, if you haven't read Transforming Problems into Happiness by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, it's a wonderful little book. Because it really, it brings up all these different ways you can look at something differently to help you develop new habits of thinking. But karma, I think the most frustrating thing for me about karma is only a Buddha can understand karma in its complexity, because it takes omniscience, because there are billions of causes and conditions coming together that ripen every moment. You think about the fact that our bodies contain the elements from the Big Bang. That's how many things are causes and conditions that have to come together. There are billions. We can't remember yesterday, much less past lives. So it's only till we remove the obstacles to remembering these things, which comes through our understanding of reality, realization of emptiness, that we can truly understand karma. So we do have to rely on much more simple examples from the world. It's like, if you want a job that requires a college degree, what do you have to do? You have to get the stupid college degree. It's just cause and effect. Now, you didn't make the rule that said you had to have this job, you have to get a college degree, but that's the way it is right now. So that's what you have to do, So some of it's obvious. So if you're thinking things like, I'd love to slap his face, you want to think, if I actually did that, what would I think? Well, would it really make me happy? Do I really want to be the person who does that? If you've had those thoughts of like, I could just kill that person, you want to think, why do I even think that? Because it's not true. And you don't want it to practice it till it becomes true. Because we don't know what's going to happen if we can't control our minds now, when we have pretty good conditions. How can we trust how we'll behave when our conditions get really hard? Yeah.
Arpita is asking
what is the name of what?
Karma. Geshe Tashi Sering.
Karma by Geshe Tashi Sering. The other book is Transforming Problems into Happiness by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Can you type that in the chat? If I need to spell anything, let me know.
Transforming Problems into Happiness.
It's Karma.
Karma by Geshe
Tashi
Tashi
Sering. Tashsering. Did I say THA? I didn't mean that. It's Tashi. Tashi. Google it on Amazon. Google it on Amazon? That makes no sense. Google it, you'll find it. Oh my goodness. Blech. I don't think it's one of the ones we have. But beware of getting yourself caught in thinking about karma. Because we do have ignorance, so we can get hooked. And many of us get hooked in the way of judging everybody else. Oh, they must have really been, blah, blah, blah. That's a negative state of mind. Don't go there. It's not helpful. Now, it's different from saying, gee, I wonder what would be the cause that could end up ripening that, without assuming you could figure out what this person did in the past, because you can't. But what you can do is kind of go, ooh, I don't want to have that, arise for me in my life. Do I do anything that could remotely be, a cause of that? Are you ever miserly? Are you ever, manipulative to get what you want? Are all sorts of things? These are ways in which, what we're doing is we're leading with our self-centeredness, and we're trying to control things to get what we want. I remember reading in one of the Lama Rinpoche about generosity. And so one of the questions that, someone finally asked is, well, who do you give to? And it has this long list. And finally, the last thing it says is anybody who asks. They don't have to deserve it. They don't even have to need it. But they're a condition for you to practice generosity if they ask. And if you're training your mind, that's what you're looking for, is a condition to be able to practice.
So, with working with your mind, in a situation, so like say a job or something, and like you don't have to, but you get to go to this job every day, and the same situation happens every day, and and it's going to happen, and you ask before you go in, and you say, this is going to happen, please help my mind make a better decision and change.
That's you. You have to do that.
Okay, yes. And then the situation comes and you totally forget about that.
Yep. Then you have to chuckle.
Okay, so does the person or the people continue to work with their mind and stay in that situation, or leave? Like, is it?
Oh, that's it depends. It depends on lots of things.
Like in general in life, like another job's going to come that you're going to have to deal with that same situation.
Yeah, but in likelihood, you may have created the cause for it, so you may end up in a job that does exactly the same thing again.
Right, so better stay and just work with.
I'm not saying better. It really does depend. If you're living your life hating everybody you work with, hating your job, hating everything, maybe it's time to move on, because you're not working with your mind and you're creating all sorts of negativity. But if you can work with your mind going, oh, I'm so glad I have a paycheck. I'm so glad I have any job at all. There are millions of people looking for work and don't have any work. There's even no opportunity to work, So this is great. I'm so grateful to have a job to be able to do this. I will also be grateful if I, look for a job that I might like better and it comes along. We don't have to just go like the child who's in or the wife who's getting abused. You don't stay and say, oh, let me exhaust this negative karma. No, you use your wisdom and you get out, and you use it to resolve, to say, I don't want to ever treat anybody this way, but we have to acknowledge things aren't in our control. We need to work, you think I want to live in Florida? I don't like Florida. Sorry, I hate the heat. I like teaching. This is where my job is. I can blame everybody here for, why did y'all live in Florida? Couldn't you have picked a cooler place? You know? But no, I took this job here. That was my choice. That's my karma writing. I lived nowhere but hot, humid places. I used to have to take allergy pills as a teenager because my school would get so hot at lunchtime and I'd get sick every day, you know, clearly. And all I'm doing is creating more negative karma to keep this going, you know, because I hate it. So, you know, it's not about, you know, we have to understand that we have to make decisions and sometimes they're going to turn out badly. We're going to make decisions and sometimes it's going to turn out well. But you can't push that on anybody else. You know, you have to decide, you know. But it's true. I mean, if you know, when we're baby Buddhists, like, you know, and you know, there are going to be situations, it's just like being in recovery, you know, there's situations that as beginners we have to avoid because it never goes well. Like if you have a group of friends who are just nothing but bitchy, you know, and whenever you go, all you do is complain about other people and you're really ugly, blah, blah, maybe don't hang out with them if you're trying to give up that habit. You know, that's a reasonable thing to do, that you're choosing to do that to take care of your mind because you don't want to be like that. You know, you don't try to change everybody else because that's not in your power. You know, you don't sit there going, I don't want to hang out with you because y'all are mean, nasty people. You know, then you're just being that mean, nasty person. You know, if you're doing it in your mind, if you're trying not to be a mean, nasty person, you know, with your speech and your behavior, if you're doing it in your mind, you are that mean, nasty person. You know, so we have to take responsibility for these things and recognize that it's a process. You don't decide and then wake up in the morning and there you are. Isn't that nuts? It's not like that. It's like, you know, 3 billion times, you know, in a year, you have to go, don't say it, you know, and eventually maybe you won't think it. You know? But if you think it, you kind of go, really, do I really want to be like that? You know, you challenge yourself. You know, and you do it again and again and again and again and again. And you're worth it. The people around you are worth it. Want a better world? It's worth it because this is what it takes. You know, and it's effortful. But that's okay. It's not like we're not expending effort already, but mostly we're doing it in ways that actually don't benefit us in the long run. So the more that we can go, okay, I'm choosing to work with this mind. Suppressing it doesn't work. You know, blaming others doesn't work. Why do I want to not think this way? You know, you have to know, why do you not want to think this way? And that will get stronger. Because you'll think of more things. You'll think, oh, that's another, because something will happen. You go, oh, that's another reason I don't want. You can just, you know, and you want to remember those things so that can give you ammunition, you know, when your disturbing thoughts are not cooperating. Because they'll keep arising and we have to keep countering them. And then remembering that things are impermanent. You know, that whatever we think is not fair is happening to other people too. You know, it's like, you know, we're not alone in our misery. And it is an opportunity to perhaps help others. You know, the more we can train our minds to respond to negativity with a mind that says, how can I help? The more opportunities to help will arise. Yeah.
You mentioned that we must be
careful not to be hooked into judgment. But as you were saying just now, to take the opportunity to help others, do you have a suggestion on how to help someone close to you that you see that they're having habits?
See, that's different. Unasked for advice usually is not listened to. So really, it's asking, how can I help? Let them tell you how you can help. Create the kind of relationship in which you have those kind of dialogues. Because if you just jump in there and try to fix someone, that's not helpful. You know, we think we know what's best for others, and sometimes we can be spot on. I mean, you know, but we don't know everything that's going on with them. We don't know where they're at. We don't know what level they're at. We don't know what's going to be beneficial for them or what might actually really hurt them. You know, until we remove our ignorance, we have ignorance about others. So it's really about being cautious. And if they don't ask you for advice about it or help with it or whatever, you know, then best not. I mean, to me, that's that, you know, it's just, it's like Buddhism's not supposed to be taught to someone unless they ask you for it 3 times. You know, in the Buddha's time, his students had to ask him 3 times. Because you don't, you know, you don't want to talk to someone who's not an open, because you might hurt them. So it really is about, and also, you know, we have to, you know, we can talk from our own experience instead of, you know, that kind of I speech instead of you speech. You know, you need to do this. Instead, you just say, well, what I've tried in my life when this has happened to me is, you know, I don't know if it'll work for you. Because the main work that we have is on ourselves. And one of the ways to achieve that is to help others, cherish others. That doesn't mean telling others what to do. That means, you know, receiving them where they are. And being loving and compassionate and wise when we can. We have some wisdom. But sometimes we don't have any. So, okay. You all good at home? There are all these.
I was going to say, you have to say something about rejoicing now too, Venerable.
Well, you didn't say 5 R's. I'm going to blame you for that. Okay, yes. So that, you know, so the 4 R's, this, you know, are the 4 opponent powers when you're trying to purify some negative, you know, that's ripening, or trying to prevent it from ripening in the future. Like if you know you have the habit of anger, you know, you can try to, you know, regret all the times you've taken your anger out on others, you know, and you want to try to do better. So, but at the very end of the day, after you've done all that, it's really important to rejoice. First, rejoice that you bothered to do that, because it's excellent. It's excellent to recognize and take responsibility for our negative actions. That's an excellent action. You know, you want to do it better. That's excellent. We want to rejoice about that. This is how we become Buddhas. It's excellent. Doesn't matter how small of progress we make, you know, it's wonderful. Then we want to rejoice in all the other good stuff. So all the good things that happened that day, we created the cause for. So we want to rejoice. Oh, whatever I created the cause, you know, for this to go so well, you know, I hope I can repeat it. Anything that you felt good about. Oh, I'm so glad I did that. Rejoice about that. I want to do it again. You know, rejoice in all the positive actions of everyone anywhere. You know, because we want more of that to happen. So be happy that it is happening, that it's happened in the past, and that we can be 100% certain will happen in the future. It is the manifestation of our Buddha nature. We have the capacity to become Buddhas. We show it every day. So we want to be happy about that. That makes sense? Is that what you wanted me to say? Okay, good. Thanks. Because I did want to mention it. Yeah.
Venerable, there's one question in the chat.
Okay. Is it in the chat?
Can you see it? I'm not sure if you can see it.
Can you give a suggestion for stopping grasping? Well, let go. Again, you have to use that reasoning mind that recognizes that grasping onto something, first of all, doesn't work. It's an ineffective strategy. You know, thinking that anything holds the secret to your happiness, you know, chocolate cake, a relationship, the, you know, job of your dreams, the vacation, you know, to die for, all of Oprah's to die for Christmas list, you know, none of these things actually can produce that. You know, so you want to use your logic of why grasping doesn't work. It's an illusion. It's a delusion of thinking that our happiness exists outside of us. So trying to make something stay permanently, you know, good stuff, futile. It is, you know, it's futile. Can't be done. Things don't exist that way. It's impossible.
Yeah, just a quick question. You brought up the concept of hell realms earlier. Is that in the original Buddhist text, or is that added by later scribes?
No, it's Buddhist teachings.
It's an original.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't there.
I know what you meant.
But you think about some of the conditions of this world, you know, why is it so hard to believe there might be worse places? And it's a mind. It's all about the mind. You know, so we do something as hideous or as heinous as Hitler did, we end up in a place that's even worse, where he's experiencing the results of all the killing karma he created. So they describe the hell realms as, in, you know, they're cold ones, hot ones, joining ones, occasional ones. There are lots. Anyway, no one's stuck there forever. It's when that karmic seed that caused you to be born there exhausts, you get out, you know. Anybody who was born human because they created the cause for it. And that's ethics. So we've all created a mixture of stuff. So if you when you land in the hell realms, it does exhaust. You will get out. It's permanent. Nothing's permanent. You know. But so they describe the hell realms as like places where you repeatedly get your body just destroyed, you know, like sliced into 1 million slivers, and then you get put back together and you have to go through it again.
It's just like Dante's.
Yes, it's exactly, yeah. Well, maybe some of these things are true because they're visions of things that people have experienced. Karma's universal. If the Buddhist teachings are correct, everybody's in danger of falling to the hell realms. If the Buddhist teachings are wrong, then no. What can I tell you? You know, I believe in cause and effect. That explains everything to me. That everything we experience, we created the cause for. And if we want to have good things be the things we experience, I need to change my mind. That's clear.
Is that global warming cause and effect?
Yep. Cause and effect. And we're part of that. You know? So, you know, it's not bad news. To me, it gives us all the power. Because we can change our experiences, you know, right away just by working with our attitude about them. You know, we can roll with things better, but we can also behave better, think more helpful thoughts, actively be more helpful, and that will cause positive things to ripen in the future. Study more. We can learn, we can remove our ignorance. So classes on attachment can help you with the idea of grasping, understanding grasping. And anger, because it's all the same stuff. Anger just arises from attachment to getting what we want. And attachment should be separated from what we don't want. Okay? All right, we're out of time. So we want to rejoice in our positive efforts this morning to try to understand a single thing, and we want to dedicate whatever positive results happen because of these positive efforts to benefit others. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then we'll dedicate some of our prayers to His Holiness's long life on page 244. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenre Sig, Chinsen Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then for the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, it's on page 234. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So thank you. Any announcements? I think there's nothing happening there may be something during the week. Check the calendar for what's happening on Zoom. We'll be back next Sunday.
We're gonna have some snacks now.
You're gonna have some snacks now?
Bagels, lots of bagels.
Oh, lots of bagels. Those of you who can eat bagels, have some bagels. Go for it. That's all I know. Is that it? Okay. Have a good week. or not.
Thank you.
Work with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tendron. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Lynn.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Nana.
Thanks, Nana.
Thank you.